I'm going to be real with you. I feel kind of like my head has been spinning lately. I feel like for climate change and for so much else, I've got both everything and nothing to say. This is kind of how I felt during the climate negotiations COP26 in Glasgow, which everyone was asking me why I wasn't at. And the answer to that is twofold. Firstly, because I didn't want to go, and secondly, because everything I saw from the negotiations made me happy that I didn't go. Seriously, these climate negotiations are so hectic and so full of pomp and PR that without proper climate policy training, which by the way I don't have, it's very hard to see through all the hype, which we saw time and time again as the negotiations continued. My main takeaway looking at this year's negotiations was that it achieved loads more than these negotiations typically do, but that's loads less than we actually need to get the world back on track. So if you're a nihilist who normally thinks it's not going to achieve anything, well then this will have surpassed your expectations. But if you're a naive optimist who thought this is going to get the world back on track, well, then you probably had a painful reality check. But it's precisely these feelings of despair and optimism that I think have got my head so jumbled lately. And looking at how everyone's been talking about COP26, I don't think I'm the only one. And so I wanted to take some time, this video to be precise, to take a look at some of the unhelpful thought patterns we can find ourselves in. Not exactly false ideas, but unhelpful ideas. Okay, enough preamble. Let's actually get started. Well, firstly, we've made no progress. Well, I get why it feels like that, but it's not actually true. Before, it looked like we were heading for around 4 degrees Celsius of global warming. Now that figure is less than 3 degrees Celsius, even less if you take countries at their word. Is this enough progress? Well, absolutely not. But is this progress? It absolutely is. Well, then it's up to us individuals to fix this. We need to get to net zero emissions globally as quickly as possible. There's simply no way that individuals can do all that by themselves, especially when many people around the world are already struggling. So then us individuals make no difference? Well, also no. Add enough individuals together and that can make a real difference to emissions and help push for the structural changes that we need. But I heard that just 100 companies are responsible for 70% of emissions. Well, I mean, yeah, that is true, but those companies are fossil fuel companies selling their fossil fuels to the rest of us, so it's not like that gets us off the hook. I just feel so helpless. Oh god, I know this one all too well. And of course, it's inevitable that we sometimes feel that way. We're individuals struggling with a global problem. But the truth is that our actions, our choices, our voices can and already have bent the emissions path that we're on, which will save lives. So congratulations, team. You're lifesavers. I just feel like there's so much stuff to do with climate change that I know that I do wrong. But of course there is. We're just trying to do our best in a messy and far from perfect situation. And just remember that your actions and your choices can and do make a difference and that nobody is perfect. Well, except for me, of course. But nobody even cares about climate change. It can sometimes feel like the world is falling apart and nobody has even noticed. But we have to remember that that's not true. I mean, I feel like it used to be true. When I started working on climate change around a decade ago, genuinely it was so far down the list of people's concerns, even though what we are talking about is something that disrupts the entire world. But now when we ask people around the world what they care about, climate change and environment is right up near the top of the list. A huge change, and especially impressive considering, you know, there's a global pandemic on at the moment. So get out there and connect with people who share your fears, and more importantly, share your hopes. and help translate those emotions into actions, both personal and structural. Speaking of which, but I feel so lucky to be connected with all of you through this YouTube channel. So thank you so much for subscribing, for watching, for all of that stuff. And as a little treat for me, if you feel like it, please leave in the comments below how long you've actually been around, how long you've been watching these videos. And if you really want to spoil me, then feel free to share this video with a loved one who you think might enjoy it. Okay, enough of all that, back to the main video. But climate change is a far off problem. Climate change is affecting everywhere around the world today, whether that's extreme weather events, water shortages, or the spread of diseases. If you feel like climate change hasn't already touched your life, all that means is that you're lucky. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Climate change will affect everyone. So this is 100% true. But it's also 100% misleading. I mean, just look at COVID. COVID has affected everyone's lives, but for some people that means losing a job or losing a loved one. And for some people it means record-breaking profits. So yes, climate change will affect everyone. But climate change will not affect everyone equally. I mean, isn't it just way too late for any of this? I've responded to this point so many times, but I still keep hearing it, so it bears repeating. Yes, our climate change targets may be slipping out of reach, but it's never too late to make a difference. It's never too late to stop punching ourselves in the face. Surely scientists and engineers can figure all this out. I would absolutely love for that to be true, and then I could feel like a climate science savior. But unfortunately, the real situation is far more complicated than that. To get to the net zero emissions we need in order to stop the world from warming, we need to transform every aspect of our societies and economies. In order to do that, we need more than just innovation. We need a lot of hard work. The truth is actually somewhere between despair and blind optimism. We need to accept that the situation is urgent and dire, at the same time as we need to understand that our actions do have positive consequences and have already begun to make a profound difference. And it's hard to hold both of these thoughts in our heads at the same time. I know that sometimes all I feel is, oh my God, we're screwed. And other times I feel, oh wow, that's huge progress. And when I say sometimes and other times, those times are often only separated by a few seconds as I scroll through Twitter. If you want to follow me on this journey through our climate change understanding and through this understanding of our emotions, then you're going to want to make sure you're subscribed and make sure you like this video and do all of that stuff for the algorithm while you're at it. And look, before I sign off this last video of 2021, I just want to say one more thing. Yes, we need to be kind to the planet, but we need to be kind to ourselves as well. Okay, that's it for this year. I'll see you in 2022. Until next time. Bye.